Hello and welcome to a new edition of True Audio Files. So today I'm going to talk about my trip to Chicago. As usual, I spent way too much money on records and got way too many records, but I don't know, is there ever too many? I'm going to go over the highlights that I got this week just because I think there's probably, I don't know, 15 or 20 records that I'm not going to show you just because I got that many records, but I'm going to kind of show the highlights anyways of what I got here today. And they're not necessarily in any kind of order except for I've got kind of jazz at the end and all the other miscellaneous stuff at the beginning. So let's get started. First up is going to be one from a band called Blackjack. And I think it's a promo copy and is in really good shape. And for those of you who don't know who Blackjack is and are kids of the 80s who grew up in the 80s, we will probably recognize a couple of people in the band. One is the lead guitarist from Kiss in the 80s, Bruce Kulick. And also some guy that's sort of known in the industry, Michael Bolton. He was the vocalist. So that's Michael Bolton right there, and that's Bruce Kulick right there. Very curious to hear what this sounds like. I've never heard it before, but it's got some good pedigree, so we'll see how it goes. Next up, this is a early pressing. I believe it's a Holland pressing of Judas Priest Rock-a-Rolla. It's on the Gull record label, and it was just in perfect condition. It looked great. Kind of funny story about this, though, is I went to the next store after this one and found a UK pressing that was supposedly a first pressing that was a little bit more money than that, though. We'll see. Hopefully that one sounds good. And probably should back up a little bit and say where I went. So I went to 4 record stores and a few half-price bookstores. So went to my favorite stores there that I always go to. It's Oak Park Records, and I go to Reckless Records, and I also went to Dusty Groove and Old School Records. So that I've got a little bit of things from each one of those stores. So next up is a band called Elf. And if you've never heard of Elf, you've definitely heard of the lead singer of Elf, who is Ronnie James Dio, which is right there. But this is a record that I think came out in 74. My glasses, yeah. And it was actually produced by Roger Glover of Deep Purple, and it's on the Purple record label. And looking forward to hearing this, because I had never heard of it before. At first, I thought it was probably a weird bootleg because it said LA 59. I thought that may have been a kind of a joke in terms of when it was performed, since this is definitely from the 70s. But it'll be interesting to see what this sounds like. I definitely have a couple of other Elf records that I do like, so we'll see how this one is. Again, another one in great condition. This one is going to sound like a really weird one to some of you, but I learned about this record actually on my trip. And the funny story is my friend who I spent a lot of time out there with, his name is Sean. Hi, Sean, if you're watching this. Found this record at a half-price bookstore and early on in the weekend, played it for me. And I was really impressed. I had never heard it before. I was kind of pessimistic about what it would sound like, but it was actually really, really good. I mean, if you like kind of old school Kiss, old school Judas Priest, kind of that era and style of music, you actually might like this, and you might want to give it a try. It is available for streaming, so you can check it out before you buy it. But I got the Allmans, Crazy Horses. The Osmonds, Crazy Horses. What is interesting about this one is it's actually a sealed copy. So pretty excited to get this. Like I said, it was kind of interesting. My buddy and I both had instances like this where we both got the same record at different times. He got the Blackjack after I got it, and then I got this after he got it. So it was a very interesting time, and I don't know if I've ever seen that before. So it was kind of interesting that we saw it twice in that week. So, and I don't think I've ever seen the Blackjack record anywhere before either, and we saw it twice while I was there. This one is very cool, very happy I found this. This is Billy Joel the Stranger. It's half-speed mastered, but it's a Japanese pressing. It was definitely cut at Sterling. That I saw that in the dead wax, but on Japanese vinyl, so it should be nice and quiet. Great album. Really, really exciting to get that. This one I bought, and I was kind of teetering on whether I should really, truly show that I got this, but I had to just for fun, especially if any of you guys, again, are kids of the 80s, maybe 90s. I think it was mainly 80s, but especially the show Moonlighting. You'll know Sybil Shepherd. She released a record, and I found it. And I figured I'd give it a try. I think it was in the jazz section, but we'll see what it actually is. So it's very possible that it is kind of jazzy, but we'll check it out and see what it's like. Next one up. This one actually just got a reissue probably, I think, a week or two ago. And it is Starfleet, Brian May and Friends, or I should say Starfleet Project. For any of you who don't know this, obviously, maybe obviously or not obviously, Brian May is from Queen, the guitarist of Queen. And one of the special guest stars, or the most popular special guest star on this, is Eddie Van Halen. So Eddie Van Halen plays guitar on this. There's also a couple of other like studio musicians that were really popular back in the day that also play on this record. So I got a near mint copy for less than half of what the reissue cost. So I figured why not. Next up this is going to be, actually I should say, this is my jazz section. So the rest of these are jazz. Hopefully you'll stick around for those of you who don't necessarily like jazz, but maybe can appreciate some good record finds. First one up is Ornette Coleman. Probably not one of his more popular albums, but this is Twins. And this is a white label promo as well. So I think it's one of his, I don't want to say later per se. It says 71. So I mean, it's kind of midpoint in his career, I guess. So maybe. But that one's Twins. Again, white label promo. Next one up is Yusuf Lateef and The Gentle Giant. So that was a good pickup. This one I'm pretty stoked I found, and wasn't in the greatest of shape necessarily, but it wasn't bad. And I was kind of disappointed that there's writing on the cover, but it's a mono copy of The Sidewinder by Lee Morgan. Lee Morgan's definitely one of my favorite jazz musicians out there, and this was a great record, and happy to find a mono version. Got a near mint copy of Charles Mingus Right Now, live at the Jazz Workshop. I kind of have mixed feelings about some of these Jazz Workshop recordings. Some of them are pretty interesting, but some of them are just kind of meh. Hopefully this is a little interesting. Next one up was an interesting one. This is Miles Davis Gold Disc. Now this appears to be a Japanese kind of greatest hits collection. I couldn't pass it up because number one is Japanese, and if you know me at all, you know I really like Japanese pressings. And number two is kind of a greatest hits collection, and it's Miles Davis. So I figured I'd give it a try. It could be interesting. Speaking of Miles Davis, I just picked up the volume 1 of this as a classic vinyl reissue a couple weeks ago. But here is Miles Davis volume 2 from Blue Note. This one was in really great shape. It looked like it was a pretty early pressing of it as well, and really good condition. This one I'm not too familiar with, but it had some people I like on it quite a bit, like Lee Morgan as one of them, and Philly Joe Jones, Percy Heath. But this is Art Farmer and Brass Shout. So, and I think, yeah, and as you can see, it's a Japanese pressing. So, again, another one of those that I couldn't be without, right? And this one is an early pressing of Sonny Rollins' Alfie, and this is a stereo version of it. And actually, probably not all that early necessarily, but it's a Japanese pressing is the big thing about that one. Next one up is actually, and this is new. This is Sun Ra Celestial Love. Actually, I've got one of his newest releases that is coming to me today. Newest reissues, I should say. So I'm excited to see that one also. But This one was interesting. I have a few of their things and I do like them. It's Return to Forever. For those of you who don't know, it's people like Chick Corea, Stanley Clark, and a few other people. But I've generally liked these. It's kind of a rock jazz fusion thing, but this is a live concert, complete concert, 4-record set. It was in perfect condition. It was a white label promo as well. So that was fun to get. Next one up is Sonny Rollins, Work Time. So I don't believe I have this one, although knowing me, I probably do because I know that there's a couple different cover variations of it, but this is definitely I think it's the second cover variation, so it's a relatively early pressing of it. And I kind of got a twofer here, and these are actually my last two, so I don't believe I've got early pressings of these, and I was able to, but I do believe I have the reissues of both of these. But anyways, it's Someday My Prince Will Come, and I actually have two. So this is the stereo one, and this is a mono. Both are very early pressings. This is the 6i mono, but this one is only just a standard label, but the stampers that were used on it were very early stampers, so it's a pretty early pressing of it. So both in pretty good shape. So not perfect, unfortunately, but they were still in pretty good enough shape so it was worth it for me to buy them. So that was the highlights, anyways, of what I got this week at my Chicago trip. And see anything you like there? I'd love to hear your comments on how you think I did. Like I said, I have a whole bunch of other records that I got that I didn't even go over. So, because these are even more records that I got that probably weren't as interesting as those other ones I showed you. So, that is everything I have for this week. Let me know what your thoughts are. Love to hear what you thought about some of my pickups. And I hope you had a great week. I hope you have a great next week. Hope you have a great day. I appreciate you watching. If you liked what you saw here, please hit that like button. And if you haven't subscribed yet, I hope you do. Please subscribe to my channel. And that is everything I have for today. You have yourself a great rest of your day.